Let yourself slow down. Whatever speed you have been moving at today, whatever pace the hours demanded of you, you can release it now. You don't need it anymore tonight. Let your breathing find its own rate, which is slower than you think, slower than you have probably been allowing it. In through the nose, gently, all the way, and out through the mouth, long and easy, until the breath runs out on its own without you pushing it, again and again. There. That is the right pace. Hold on to it. I want you to imagine that you have been traveling, not a difficult journey, a quiet one. A long road through countryside that has been growing gradually darker and more autumnal as the afternoon gave way to evening, the trees along the verges gone amber and bronze and deep red, the light coming in low and golden through the gaps between them, the kind of light that only exists for about 20 minutes on an autumn afternoon, and that makes everything it touches look like the memory of itself rather than the thing itself. You have been on this road for several hours. The carriage, or perhaps you have been walking or riding, it doesn't matter, has been slow and unhurried, and the countryside has unrolled beside you at a pace that allowed you to actually see it, which is a rarer thing than it should be. A farmhouse set back from the road, its windows lit, smoke from its chimney rising straight up into the still air. A pond, perfectly flat, holding the last of the sky in its surface like something it is keeping safe. A church in a village you pass through, its clock reading a time you didn't quite catch, but that felt like the right time, whatever the right time was. You have been thinking on and off about nothing in particular, the way you do when you travel, not the purposeful directed thinking of a desk, but the slower, wandering kind that happens when your body is occupied with moving and your mind is free to drift. A thing you meant to do last week, a conversation half remembered, the way the light looked on the pond, each thought arriving and departing without consequence. Old roads are good company. Roads used for centuries carry something, a quality of having been walked by many feet before yours, of being a known way through the world. You are not pioneering. You are following. The road knows where it goes. And now, as the road drops into a small market town and the last of the light goes completely, you see the inn. It is called the Wren. 3 stories, old stone at the base and older timber framing above, with mullioned windows catching the lamplight inside and giving it back to the street in warm amber fragments. Window boxes with late-season flowers, gone slightly past their best, but still present, still trying. A lantern above the door, a step worn concave by centuries of arrivals. You push open the door. The interior is warm and low-ceilinged and smells of wood smoke and something cooking and the particular smell of old inns that is made up of many accumulated evenings. A smell that is almost a sound, almost a feeling, as much as it is a smell. The entrance opens into a small parlor with a bar to one side, and behind the bar, a woman of perhaps 60 with silver hair and a manner of absolute unhurried competence, the kind of person who has run this place for a long time and intends to keep running it for a long time more, and is not particularly interested in rushing any part of the process. She looks up when you come in. She does not look surprised. People arrive at the Wren. That is what people do. She was expecting someone. It turns out to be you. Traveling through, she says. You tell her yes, one night. She nods, reaching for a key on the board behind her without looking. Her hand finds it directly, from long familiarity. She sets it on the bar. A large iron key on a wooden fob, the number 7 carved into the wood and painted over so many times it has become more of an impression than a number. Room 7, she says. Top of the stairs, turn left, last door. Supper in an hour if you want it. Fire's already lit. You take the key. It is heavier than you expected and warm, as though it has been sitting near a heat source. You climb the stairs. The corridor at the top is narrow and slightly uneven underfoot. The floor has settled over centuries into a gentle undulation that you navigate without thinking, the way you navigate familiar ground. The wallpaper is old, a pattern of small dark flowers on a cream background, worn smooth in the center of the wall where hands have brushed it for years in the dark. 3 doors on the left, 2 on the right. Yours is at the end, on the left. You put the key in the lock. It turns with a solid, satisfying sound, a sound of good ironwork made a long time ago to last. You open the door. The room is small and exactly right. A single window, looking out over the back of the inn. A small courtyard below, a stable, the dark shapes of trees beyond the low wall at the yard's edge, and above all of it, a sky in which the first serious stars of the evening are now fully present, cold and precise, and very far away. The window glass is old, slightly uneven, and the stars seen through it are softened at the edges, made slightly larger and more wavering than they are, which is an improvement. The walls are plaster, painted a color that might be cream or might be the palest possible green. It is difficult to say in this light, and somehow the uncertainty is pleasing. There are 2 pictures on the walls, small watercolors in plain wooden frames, one of a coastline, gray-blue water and pale cliffs, one of a garden in summer, slightly faded, the colors of the flowers gone soft with age. Neither is remarkable. Both are exactly the right thing to have on the walls of a room like this. The bed is along the far wall, high off the floor, dark headboard, a coverlet of deep green turned down at one corner with the kind of precise hospitality that suggests the woman downstairs takes these things seriously. 2 plump pillows. A hot water bottle already in place beneath the coverlet, a warmth you can feel from where you are standing. There's a small fireplace on the inner wall, and the fire, as promised, is already lit. Not a large fire. A considered one, 3 logs arranged properly, burning with a steady low flame that is past the establishing phase and into the settled phase, producing more heat than light, which is what you need from a fire at this hour. A small armchair beside it, with a footstool. A table with a lamp on it, the lamp already lit, its glow warm and local, making a circle of readable yellow light without disturbing the comfortable dimness of the rest of the room. You set down your bag. You take off your coat and hang it on the hook behind the door. You stand for a moment in the quiet of the room, feeling the warmth of the fire beginning to reach you, feeling the particular relief of having arrived somewhere after a day of being in between places. You go to the window. The courtyard below is just visible in the dark. Cobblestones, a low stone wall, the shape of trees beyond it, a single lamp on the stable wall. The sky above the rooftops is the deep particular blue of a clear autumn night, and the stars in it are sharp and cold and very far away, and looking at them for a moment from this warm room produces the pleasant sensation of being simultaneously very small and very safe, which is one of the better combinations available. You stand there for a moment, the room already beginning to feel familiar, not because you have been here before, but because it is well considered enough that your body recognizes it as a place where it is allowed to rest. Then you notice the letter. It is on the small writing table by the window, a table you didn't register immediately because your attention went first to the fire and then to the bed and then to the view. But there it is, a single envelope, cream-colored, slightly thicker than ordinary paper, lying on the otherwise bare table as though it has been placed there deliberately, or perhaps left there by accident, or perhaps has simply been there so long it has become part of the furniture. You cross the room and pick it up. It is unsealed. The flap is tucked in rather than glued down, the way people sometimes seal letters they are still deciding whether to send. On the front, in a careful handwriting that suggests someone who was taught to write properly and has maintained the habit, a name, not your name, a name you don't recognize, 2 words in a script that is clear and deliberate and slightly old-fashioned, the letters formed with a care that suggests the writer considered each one. There is no address, no stamp, just the name, and below it, in smaller letters, as though added as an afterthought, Room 7, the Wren. You turn the envelope over. Nothing on the back. You stand at the window with it in your hands for a moment, looking out at the courtyard and the trees and the stars. The fire behind you shifts and settles. The lamp on the table makes a small sound, the faint tick of the metal in the heat. You should put it back. It is not yours. It was left here for someone else, or perhaps left here by mistake, or perhaps, and this is the thought that begins to take shape slowly, like something emerging from fog, left here intentionally by someone who knew that whoever came next to Room 7 would find it and wanted them to. You sit down in the armchair by the fire. You open the letter. The paper inside is the same cream stock as the envelope, folded once. The handwriting continues, the same careful script, neither hurried nor ornate. You begin to read. The letter begins simply, "I don't know who will read this," and then, after a small space on the page, as though the writer paused here and considered whether to continue, "But I find I want to write it anyway." That seems like enough of a reason. You settle deeper into the armchair. The fire is warm on your face. Outside, you can hear, very faintly, the sounds of the inn below. A low murmur of voices from the parlor, the distant sound of something in the kitchen, a door somewhere closing with a sound that travels up through the old timbers of the building and arrives in your room as a feeling more than a sound. But these things are far away. The room around you is quiet. The letter is in your hands. The writer describes in careful and unhurried prose a stay in this room. Not when. There is no date anywhere on the letter, which you noticed and which feels deliberate. Just a stay. An autumn evening, a fire, a window looking out over the same courtyard you can see from where you sit. They describe the watercolor of the coastline on the wall, the same one that is on your wall now, and say that they spent a long time looking at it on their first night and trying to decide where it was, which coast, which particular arrangement of cliff and water, and that they never managed to decide, and that this bothered them less than they expected. They described the landlady, not by name, but by the quality of her presence, which they found calming in a way that took a few days to understand. The way she moved through the inn as though everything in it were accounted for, considered, and found acceptable, and that this quality extended to the guests as well. To be in her inn was to be briefly accounted for in the same way. They write about the town, the market square, which has a fountain that doesn't run in winter but that still has water in it in autumn, gone still and dark, reflecting the buildings around it. The baker on the corner of Wren Street. They don't say the street name, but you will find it, they say, by the smell. Who opens at 5 in the morning and whose bread, bought and eaten while still warm, is one of the small and serious pleasures of being alive. The church, which has a bell that rings at odd intervals that don't seem to correspond to any clock or schedule, as though the bell itself decides when to ring, and rings when it feels like something worth marking has occurred. They write about a person they met here, not their name, not how they met, only that there was a person, and that several evenings were spent in the parlor downstairs talking about things that felt important and that remain important in memory. Not something they had been expecting to find in a small market town on a quiet road. And then the letter becomes quieter. The handwriting doesn't change, but the pace of the words seems to slow, the way speech slows when the easier things have been said and the harder thing underneath is arriving. They write that they are not sure where to go next, not geographically, in some other way, less easy to map, that they had come looking for clarity and had not found clarity exactly, but had found something harder to name. The word they use is restedness, that they felt after the days here rested in a way deeper than sleep, as though something that had been working very hard for a long time had been given permission, briefly, to stop. They write, I am leaving this letter in room 7 because I stayed in room 7 and because it feels right to leave something here. Not a message for anyone in particular, just evidence that someone was here and rested and went on. The letter ends there. No signature, just those last words, and then the cream paper and the firelight. You fold it along its original crease and hold it in your hands for a while without putting it down. The fire breathes. The inn breathes. Outside, the stars are where they were. You think about the baker on Wren Street, whether you will find it tomorrow by smell, as the letter suggested, whether the church bell will ring while you are there, and whether you will think of the person who wrote this letter, hearing the same bell, not knowing what it was marking either. You think about restedness as they used the word, not tiredness resolved, but something deeper, like the difference between a fire burning for an hour and one burning all day, where the heat has had time to work into the stone of the hearth so that even if the fire went out, the warmth would remain for hours afterward. Warmth in the stone. You look at the watercolor of the coast on the wall and try, as the letter writer tried, to decide which coast it is. The particular gray-blue of the water, the angle of the cliffs. You don't manage to decide. You decide to think about it tomorrow, and then decide you don't need to think about it at all, and that is fine too. You set the letter on the table beside the lamp, not back in the envelope, just on the table, open, visible, the cream paper in the lamplight, the careful handwriting. You're not sure why you don't fold it back into the envelope, but it feels right to leave it open, the way a page feels right to leave open when you are in the middle of something, even if you are not exactly reading anymore. You sit with it for a while. The fire has found its deepest hour. past the active phase, past even the settled phase, into something older and more fundamental, the phase where the logs have been burning long enough to become mostly coals, orange-red and breathing at their own pace, no longer needing the open flame to prove themselves. The heat from them is more even than the heat from a young fire, more diffuse, filling the room from below as well as from the front, and you have been sitting in it long enough that it has worked its way into you, into the muscles of your back and shoulders, into your hands, into the part of your chest that tightens when you are cold or worried, and that you sometimes don't notice is tight until it releases. You think about the person who wrote the letter, not anxiously, not trying to solve anything, just turning the question over gently the way you turn a stone in your hand, not looking for anything underneath it, just feeling the weight of it, the texture, the temperature, who they were when they were here. Whether the person they mentioned in the parlor is someone they are still in contact with, or whether that too is part of the past now, visited and left behind like the letter itself. You think about the landlady's description in the letter, considered and found acceptable, and you look at the room around you and you feel the accuracy of it. This room has been considered. The fire was lit before you arrived. The hot water bottle was placed. The lamp was burning. These are small things, and they are everything. The difference between a room that is merely available and a room that is ready for you is the difference between being tolerated and being expected even by a stranger who does not know you specifically, but who knows that someone is coming and has prepared for that. Someone is a form of being cared for that goes surprisingly deep. From downstairs, very faint, voices at a low register, something set down on wood, someone laughing once and then the murmur resuming. Life going on at its own speed, one floor below, in no need of your participation. You get up and go to the window. The courtyard is dark and still. A single lantern on the stable wall throws a circle of light onto cobblestones, slightly damp from rain that must have fallen without you noticing. The trees beyond the wall are just shapes, darker than the sky. The sky itself has changed since you arrived. Clouds have moved in from somewhere, softening the sharp cold stars into a general luminosity, a faint ambient glow that comes from the cloud itself, catching and diffusing the moonlight from somewhere above it. The world outside is a study in soft grays. You think about the writer's phrase, evidence that someone was here and rested and went on. You stand at the window and you think about all the people who have stood at this window before you, looking out at this courtyard, this sky, these trees. Hundreds of them over the years this room has been a room. Thousands perhaps over the life of the building, each one with their own letter that they did not write, their own questions they were carrying, their own particular reason for stopping here, on their way from one place to another. Each one resting briefly in a room that was ready for them, each one going on in the morning. You are one of them now. The thought settles over you gently, like a blanket, not melancholy. Something almost opposite, a sense of being part of a long and ordinary and entirely sufficient thing. You stay at the window longer than you meant to. The world outside is still and complete, requiring nothing from you. The room behind you is warm and small, an excellent place from which to think about nothing in particular. Through a brief gap in the clouds you can see the moon, 3/4 perhaps, bright enough to cast a faint shadow onto the cobblestones below. Then the gap closes and the courtyard returns to its gentle gray. You think about the phrase, evidence that someone was here. The writer left a letter, but they also left things they didn't know they were leaving. The question now in your mind, the fact that you are thinking about them, the way this room has become slightly more itself for the knowledge that someone else sat in this chair before you. That is also evidence, the kind that doesn't require paper. You turn back to the room, the fire, the lamp, the letter on the table, the bed turned down, waiting. The fire is very low now, not out. It will not go out for some time yet, the coals holding their heat with the patience of things that have been burning for a long time and know how to continue. But the light from it has diminished to a deep amber glow, a warmth that is more felt than seen, that fills the lower part of the room with a color that is almost not a color, just a quality of the air, a softness to the dark that distinguishes it from other kinds of dark. You are in the bed. You don't entirely remember getting into it. The movement from the armchair to the bed happened in the slow and half-aware way that things happen at this hour, when the body has already decided what comes next and simply begins moving toward it without waiting for instruction. The sheets are cool and then warm. The pillow receives the weight of your head with that small adjustment of feathers that is one of the most quietly satisfying sounds in the world. The coverlet is heavy in the way you need it to be. The letter is on the table by the window, still open, in the last of the lamplight. You turned the lamp down, but not all the way off, and it burns now at its lowest setting, just enough to give the room a faint warm presence, just enough that the darkness is not total but a soft and inhabited thing. You think, gently and without effort, about the writer. You will not find out who they were. You understand this, and it is all right. Some questions are not meant to be answered. They are meant to be carried lightly, the way you carry certain things that have no resolution and no urgency, and that ask nothing of you except to be occasionally remembered. The letter will be here after you leave. Or perhaps the landlady will find it when she cleans the room and set it aside, and eventually it will become part of the room in the way that certain things become part of rooms. The watercolor of the coast, the worn patch on the floorboard near the window, the small brass hook behind the door. A thing that has been here long enough to belong here. Evidence that someone was here and rested and went on. Outside, very faint, the church bell. One low note, arriving and then fading, the sound of it dissolving into the quiet night air of the town. What it is marking at this hour, you don't know. Perhaps the writer was right. Perhaps the bell decides for itself what is worth marking. Perhaps it rang because someone in room 7 was about to fall asleep for the first time in this bed, and that seemed, to the bell, like something. The lamplight wavers once, very slightly, for no reason you can see. Then it stills. Your breathing has slowed without you noticing. Long in, long out, the same rhythm as the coals in the grate, the same rhythm as the old building around you, settling into its nighttime self, releasing the tensions of the day in small and gradual increments, the way all old things release tension, not suddenly, not dramatically, but over a long time, incrementally, with patience. The town outside is quiet. The inn below is quiet. The corridor outside your door is quiet, and the 7 rooms along it are quiet. And whatever is in those rooms, other travelers, other questions, other evenings coming to their end, all of it is quiet. You are in room 7. Someone was here before you and rested and went on. You are here now, and you are resting. And in the morning, you will go on too, out into whatever comes next, carrying whatever you carry, and this room will be here, and the fire will be laid again, and the lamp will be lit, and someone else will arrive and set down their bag and stand for a moment in the quiet warmth of a room that was ready for them. That is enough. That is, in fact, exactly enough. Let your eyes close now. Let the letter go. You can think about it again another time or never, and either is fine. Let the questions go with it. Let the warmth do the work it has been doing patiently all evening, which is the work of making you heavy and slow and ready. The coals breathe, the inn holds. You are here and resting, and that is the whole of what is needed. Sleep now.